we're so excited to have you on with us today, Ed, because I mean, you've been working on so many great projects for years, but this trilogy, and ending with Maxine, that how cool has this been? Ty's
Um,
fantastic, and just
well,
all.
it's really interesting because we worked years ago on the Sacrament, and then um, Ty's done a lot of work since then, film, television, and I've been churning all the whole time as well. And it was really great to get back together creatively and see how each of us has grown since the previous collaboration. And then these three have been intense and awesome at the same time. So I'm really happy to be working with him. He's a very, very talented guy, equally very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been lucky enough to have him on, and it's just kind of cool to see his vision grow, and of course the Sacrament. We were at TIFF for the premiere, so like we've been following along the whole way in through Fantastic Fest in Austin. So it's great to see the star rise. But
Yeah.
what is it about this that's been so special to you? Because it's each project is really cool. It seems like when I see the music come up, it's got your name on. I was like, all right, I know he's only picking good stuff. So but
Well,
what is it about this one?
at this point in my life, my career, it's been a while. So uh, my number one metric for being involved with on any project is the people involved. They have to be good, just good to experience my life with. Um, and Ty is definitely that type of person, and he has a tendency to bring out the best in people around him. He's very precise in what he's aspiring toward, but he also gives everyone, some room to operate and to, carve out their own space and be who they are in the context of his film. So it is really fun in that regard, and it's very much a conversation, not only about music but filmmaking throughout the entire process. So I love working with him because of that, and I know at the end of the day he's going to create something that he feels great about. And the thing about movies, especially with what happens to the score once you deliver it, because it never appears as we deliver it. um, I know that he is going to realize his vision. And so long as he does that, I always have the soundtrack to show what the original intentions might have been. But, the context of music in a film is quite different than straight up listening experience. So soundtracks are for fun, and the score is there to do a job. And
Yeah,
I always find it very interesting by the time I see the final dub of a movie, where we landed, because even in this film, it's an indie film, but there was definitely a ton of work that went into creating the tapestry that is the score, because it's really touching on so many genres. Um, it's challenging and a lot of fun, and while we wanted to nod throughout the film to different tropes of the late 70s and 80s, we there were certain things we didn't want to tap into because they've been celebrated quite a bit in the last 10 years, a lot of the 80s. So um we just kind of went our an alternative route to that, and I thought it was really fun to explore a lot of the things that came up in our conversations. Now with the trilogy altogether, um when Ty called me to do X and sent me the script, I really liked the script when I read it. And in our first discussion about what the music could be for that movie, we wanted it to be a little bit off the wall. We weren't trying to be scary per se. We just wanted to make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. And at the time, I was working with Chelsea Wolfe, and she's an amazing artist. She and I were doing a song for a soundtrack album I was creating kind of during COVID. Um, called Dark Knight's Death Metal. So I had a lot of great, huge artists on that. And through getting to know Chelsea, she had expressed, because definitely a horror fan, and so she had expressed, interest in being involved in a score at some point in her career. And I proposed to Ty that we have a vocal centric score, and that Chelsea be the voice of it. And once he delved deeper into her catalog, he really recognized that she would be phenomenal
Mhm.
for it, because she's so musical and yet she's so capable of exploring darkness and just really unusual concepts. And so that was great to have that connective tissue from this project that I really was so passionate about during COVID, because these artists were all kind of feeling lost.
Mhm.
Nobody knew what was going to happen. And so it was an opportunity for them, because a lot of them were holding on to records they had just completed, but they didn't want to put them out, obviously, during the lockdown. So they were able to get involved in something that was fun, and the stakes were not too high. And it was kind of a respite from all the concerns that COVID brought. So that collective energy was intense, and to carry some of that into X was really cool with Chelsea. And then Pearl just happened very, very quickly. Um, you know, Ty and Mia Goth wrote that while they were in New Zealand, still setting up X. So they got greenlit for Pearl just before X went into production. And it was, they were shot sequentially. And it felt good to be in that lexicon of character. Obviously, that film takes place in, I think, 1919.
Mhm.
So it's a completely different, style of score. It's definitely, nodding to the Hollywood golden era of scores. But it was great to be in that headspace, and then to come back into Maxine was a lot of fun. I love getting involved in everything. So I'm not really comfortable sitting in one place. So the fact that we were able to traverse so much, terrain musically in these three films was really rewarding.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, and people look up to what you do and they think, oh, how cool would that be? Because you get to do music for great films, but also get to play live music and do kind of like all kinds of it's never dull. And so what kind of advice would you give to somebody that wants to follow in your footsteps?
Um, well, I don't know if you want to do that. it's it's it can be very intense and chaotic, because when I do go on the road, I'm traveling with a rig, and it's pretty intense, and it's not the same as being in my studio. So I might get 2 or 3 hours in a hotel room to work on something. Sometimes if we're driving, whatever, I can do some things. So that is stressful, because there's always something going on at home, and I want to make sure it's always the best it can be, or at least the best I, I'm capable of. And I do have great people who work here with me. Joanne Higginbottom is very much involved in a lot of the things that are happening here, and now the people I've worked with and am going into new projects with are a lot more comfortable allowing us to shine a light on her as well. So that's great. So, like Criminal Minds, we do that together, and Joanne's perfectly capable of knocking it all out herself if she wants to. But we love the collaboration, and it is great to have that here. So, following in my footsteps, what I find most important is people. Think about your life, and I don't mean to be morose, but I've always lived my life without the idea that I have a long life to live. I want to, but I don't take it for granted. So I try and get as much stuff happening and done in my life authentically as possible. So I have really great friends. I have really amazing people who work with me to help us reach our objectives here. All who've worked with me a very long time. Um, that's important. The people are so important. And I think that when you put that out into the universe, you have a tendency to attract more positive energy. And then musically, I think it's best to develop yourself to be the artist you want to be. Create the thing that you want to be doing in your life. Don't try and guess who people want you to be. You always have to be your authentic self. And once you develop an aspect of your talent, and really your talent is what? That's the capacity to express your taste through your art form and articulate it as well as possible, right? So, um, I think you start from the thing that you are really innately best at, that you enjoy, and trust that each challenge that comes your way will allow you the opportunity to expand the scope of your repertoire. So,
Mhm.
horror movies are great for that because usually there's an awesome opportunity for an emotional theme in the context of a horror film, but it also gives you a tremendous opportunity to really hone your chops programming and to do some inventive things that you can't really get away with in any other genre. That's what I love about it. You can get away with musical murder in a horror film, and people are like, yes, that's kick ass. So that's great. I do love, also lyrical dramatic music, and I would love the opportunity to do more films um, like that. But the stuff that has, the projects that have come my way uh, by nature of my collaborators and how they've grown, the directors and producers, has been more genre centric or action movie or whatever. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to work. So, for instance, like to have done the entire John Wick franchise is really awesome, you
Yeah.
know, and the director, Chad Stahelski, is somebody that, is a composer, or anybody else, you're willing to run through a wall for him because he is the same way and he's a badass and he's totally lethal. I mean,
Yeah.
everything you see in John Wick, he does. Like
Mhm.
he can do it. He's done it. He orchestrates it. He designs it all. He teaches everybody, trains everybody. So when you see somebody who is that deeply ensconced in their craft and they're not outsourcing all these integral elements, and that's what Tai West is about too. You're willing to just do anything you can to help bring that to fruition at its highest level, whatever the director is looking for. So it is a never say die effort, and you have to be ready to do that. You have to be ready to be that person. You may have grievances.
Mhm.
We composers don't have a union or a guild, so we're taken advantage of. We're expected to be on call 24/7. Um, there is no such thing as overtime for us or any of that. So you have to be prepared for that. And the director and producer and the studio, they have to know that you will not break. You may break down after you're done. You may say, I'm not doing that again. That was too much. But once you're on something, you just have to give everything you've got. And that's not just with film and television and video games and any other visual media, but it's that way also when you're creating records with artists. I love to do that. Obviously, I've had a very at this point now a very intense collaboration through time with like Marilyn Manson, Jerry Cantrell, Bush, my friends in Starcrawler. So I love working with artists, um and I love really writing a lot. So one of the things I've had the opportunity to do when I work with Marilyn Manson is I write all the music and play it all. So it's fun. And it's really just the two of us in that collaborative conversation. It just happens right here where I'm sitting and he's sitting a few feet from me. So that's how we do it. And it's amazing and it's really charged. Uh, I can't speak about what's coming, but there's something coming.
Good,
And,
good.
and it's,
I
it's
saw some.
very, it's very exciting.
That's so cool. I saw there's some shows coming up, in fact, including up the road in Oklahoma in the casinos, and I was hoping that meant that you would be there, but I guess maybe we'll see, right?
Yeah. Hit me up. Hit me up
Yeah,
if you want to go, because that is the closest place to Dallas, I think, that isn't Dallas.
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and there's a casino, so what the hell? You can go
Yeah,
lose some money.
yeah. And I
But
might.
but no, what I'm trying to do with my life, is and I am always just this is me. Like I don't put on any fronts. I don't put any produced genius videos out there or any stuff like that. That's not how I roll. But relationships are really important to me. Having authentic experiences throughout your life with people that informs who you are as an artist and leads you to the point where you see other opportunities for yourself because you've grown as a person, you've grown as an artist. You can do anything you want to do if you want to do it bad enough. But, I mean, sure, there are, whatever, 500 million artists in the world, right? But every day you can do something to increase your odds from 1 in 500 million to 1 in 250 million to 1 in 1 million and so on and so forth. You chip away, and play the long game. It's amazing. Like when I was young, man, I was playing all the time, just concerts. So by the time I was 30, I'd done 1,000 concerts, and then my film career really took off at that point. And I didn't even plan on being in the film music business. It's just when I moved back to LA years ago, people started asking me to score their movies, and I'd never even spoken to another film composer in my life um, until after I'd completed 18 movies. So I was just figuring it out, learning from editors and directors and producers and re-recording mixers, just listening to everything they had to share with me. And um, that was interesting. And then all of a sudden the film career took off at a time when my personal life was developing into more of a family mode. And then because I kept up my chops enough, when I was 25, it was ridiculous, but I kept my chops up enough so that by the time I had met Manson when we were doing Californication, he was a guest actor on the show for a few episodes. We had to do a concert with all the musical artists involved in the cast, and he was one of them. And you know, after a year of talking to me about doing music, I said, "All right, let's see what you got." And I don't know, we had chemistry. So the reason that that was even possible is because I never let go of the thing that I started off doing. I really started playing saxophone and then guitar and producing. So you want to think about what you're doing every day when you're composing music. You are a producer and you need to think like a producer. Like, don't just compose, but what is your sound? That's what you want to do with all your music. I'm not saying I'm, the greatest guitar player in the world, but people who've heard me once always know my guitar playing. And kind of with my scores, because my scores have a tendency to have broken parts in them, you know, some rough honed edges. Why? Probably because that's, in my experience, that's part of life. There's also beauty and amazing, you know, incredible things that happen. And I always invite that into my life. Um, I do, I'm not going to get Oprah on you, but I do, I do state my intentions to myself. Maybe not religiously every day, but I do circle back and do a meditation and think about, like, what am I doing? Am I waiting for life to happen to me, or am I going to just go out and forge my life? And we have to do both, right? We have to be receptive to what can be. You can be so myopic when you first start out that you think I'm doing this and not this, right? But if you see the opportunity to be of service with your talent and skill set to somebody who is seems worthy of your time and your talent, give it a shot. See what happens from it. You never know what's going to happen in this life. And that's why I say play the long game. I mean, hit it hard now, but play the long game, because if you do, incredible things will happen in your life. And, I mean, I dreamt of doing world tours when I was a kid. And it didn't happen to me till I was in my 40s, late 40s. So it's amazing that that even happened ever, but it only did because I kept showing up for myself every day. I wasn't, being, totally insane and doing the same thing with no results day after day, year after year. You constantly have to pay attention to what's going on around you and really learn from everything. Your bad experiences, you can't say, "Oh man, I was screwed over there." You have to take wisdom from that, and then you've added value to yourself, because you do enough things, some of them don't work out the way you want, and some things that you really don't want to happen, but you have to take with that wisdom. Otherwise, you become jaded and closed off. And we don't want that to happen. We want to continue to fuel our creativity, our love for interacting with other creative people. That's what empowers you to do anything that you're capable of doing. But it's an intense effort. I didn't come into the business with money or connections. I didn't work for another composer ever. So, not many, who've managed to do that. But I'm really grateful for the people who've entrusted me with their stories, and I think part of why I've connected with the directors that I've worked with so often is because I don't judge people. I try and understand people because as a composer, that is our job to understand the storyteller so we can help them tell their story. Not tell my story. I'm using my talent to help them tell their story. And if I want to tell my story, then it's up to me to write a book or do my own record or all that. So I think the key is just to really get into that. And every time you really open yourself to that mentality, you learn a lot and you'll learn a lot about yourself. Because if we start judging people, it's really about we're using ourselves as the basis for what we think of other people. Oh, that guy's a weirdo. Oh, really? What am I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't do that,
Yeah.
because I know I'm a weirdo. I know I come out totally monotone, but inside my skull here, there's a circus all the time, you know. And
I love
yeah, so
Well,
yeah.
that's how the greatest artists are, and of course now you were able to answer a couple of questions that I had in all that. I was going to ask you kind of about your success mindset, and kind of what keeps you on the right path, but then also my co-host is Drew Pearson, who famously caught the Hail Mary, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, went in the Hall of Fame. And so we always ask people that Hail Mary moment, that moment in your life or career you just had to go for and it worked out for you. You kind of covered that, but I don't know. You've had such an interesting life. There's probably more than one Hail Mary, right?
I mean, that was amazing too. I was alive for that.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge football fan.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm a Tennessee Titans fan.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been painful mostly. I've been, started with the Oilers. Started with the Oilers when I was a kid. Long story. I don't need to get into it, but it's kind of fun. And here's the thing, right? Anything can happen, right? So my wife and I were at a Grammy party in LA, and I was there as a film composer, as Warner Brothers. So I'd done some scores with them. And yeah, the room's full of famous people, and I'm around people all the time. So whatever, we're at the bar, talking to a couple rock and roll manager friends we've had, we've known for a long time. And someone from the label came up to me and said, "Hey Tyler, anyone here you want to meet?" I'm like, no, no, we're good. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, who's that guy standing over there by himself in a windbreaker? They're like, oh, he's not in the music business. He's a football player. That's Santonio Holmes. I'm like, I want to meet him because he caught the winning touchdown in the Steelers Cardinals Super Bowl, right? And he had a strange year that year. But nonetheless, he caught that pass and that changed everything for that year for him. He got caught with weed and they suspended him for a month, and then he had dropped the pass just before that one. So he got another chance to redeem himself. And so he came over and they introduced him to me. And it's always awkward because people don't really understand people like me. So they're like, "Hi, Santonio. This is Tyler Bates. He's a composer for film, and he did Watchmen, and he did 300." And then when he said 300, Santonio's eyes practically popped out of his head. He's like, "You did 300?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I just live in a cave, so I don't know what's going on in the outside world. I don't really look at social media either. So he's like, "Man, we rolled out to every home game to your music this year." I'm like, "God damn, maybe the Titans should have done it. They would have won a few games." And he says, "Oh, bro, Titans." I'm like, "Well," I'm like, "What are you gonna do, man? That's my team." And he said, "Well, if you want to write a theme for the Steelers, I'll hook you up." And I'm like, "I can't do it. I'm a fan of the Titans." And so then a couple of years later, I was on tour, pretty bored because I'm used to doing so much in my studio every day. So if we're not playing or sound checking, we're kind of just killing time. So through my agent, I got in touch with somebody on the Titans, and then they asked me to write the theme for the team, and then they liked that. So then they asked me to go down there and play the national anthem. That was freaking scary. That was like jumping out of a plane because it was just me and a Marshall amp. And so I went down there and I had met just the day before one of my guitar heroes, Adrian Ballou. He came to the
Yeah.
game. We had dinner. He came to the game in our box. And so 5 minutes before I'm going to play, there's my guitar hero and 65,000 people, and it's raining, and I go open the case of the guitar, and I'm on this huge platform, and I check the tuning, and the strings are all cold and sticky, and I'm like, damn. So I just hit the standby on the amp, and it's like, and without even a mental rep, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hollywood, blah, 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 Tennessee Titans super fan, Tyler Bates. And there I am looking at the jumbotron, and it's either me the size of Godzilla, or it's a team like this, or it's the military like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get through this. But it was so great to have done it. I don't think I would sign up for it. But when they asked me, the only reason I said yes is because I knew they rang a bell that would haunt me my entire life if I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it, but I knew I kind of had to do it or else that would have haunted me. And so therefore what I'm saying is you have to answer to these little opportunities in life, or think about your capabilities and just try things. You know, you never know what will lead to the next thing. But I do know that being prolific and connecting with people is key, and it's very important. You know, it's really important. And you know, when you're working with a director, their stories need to connect with an audience. So we need to think about not just the music in the movie, but we need to think about the audience experience, how we want them to feel, you know, how we want to prime them to receive the emotion of the film, whether it's a scare, whether it's a thrill, whether it's sadness, happiness, you know, whatever it is. So I think that comes with opening yourself to doing a lot of things with your life and growing from it and being around good people, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm so lucky. I have an amazing family, I have amazing friends, and the people who work with me here in the studio are all phenomenal human beings. And, you know, I'm just so grateful that that's what my day consists of, regardless of the challenges of our work each day. So that foundation has really helped me have the courage to go after doing some things that seem unattainable.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, before we let you go, I know you always got something great in the works. What are we going to hear coming up from you?
What am I allowed to speak about?
Yeah, that's true. All the good stuff you can't say anything about, or
I
the best stuff.
know it's crazy. You know, I'm so happy, first off, that Tracker became this incredible success, that TV show, and is coming back for like another 22 episodes. Amazing. We love doing that stuff here too. We have so much fun with the people we work with on television, and Criminal Minds as well. Been such an incredible pleasure to do that. I did a show called Hysteria that is one of my favorite projects of all time. It's a new series. I think it's going to air in October, but it definitely has a lot to do with uh, religion and Satanism and all this stuff. But it's a commercial show. It's going to be great when people see it. I think they'll really enjoy it. And there's also a coming of age aspect to the show that's really cool. I don't know what I am allowed to say, so I can't really get too specific with it. There is definitely some live performances on the way, and a lot, and some new music with some artists that I've worked with in the past, that I'm super excited about. I think it's really like the best thing that we've done. And yeah, I mean, I would like to. I have a couple of movies going on right now, video game happening right now, and started a new TV show that I'm super excited about. But you know, I never want to speak about anything until everything is great. So we are not in a shortage of interesting projects and challenges ahead. So I'm really thrilled that I'm able to have this happening in my life right now.
I love that. I'm so happy for you. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Incredible answers. And definitely looking forward to seeing you coming up this summer at the casino.
All right, Paul. Well, stay cool, man.
Thanks so much. All right. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.